Hello and welcome back to the AA NBA podcast. I'm your host, Aiden Hammond.
And I'm Aditya.
And today we don't have a ton of news, but we do have our power rankings. So let's go ahead and get started with that. You want me to go first? You want to go first?
You can take this one. I think I went first last time.
All right. My number 5 is the Milwaukee Bucks. This week, the Bucks. First of all, the Bucks are second in the East. They're 16-10. They're getting right up there, like everybody figured they would be. Over the last week, though, they've been good. They beat the Cavaliers twice. I'm sorry. Wait, hold on. Let me just make sure I have my dates right. Okay, yeah. They beat the Cavaliers once. They beat the Nuggets, and they lost by 1 to a very good Suns, or a pretty good Suns team. So overall, pretty decent week. They're still a high-end contender for the East. They beat a good team and they lost to a good team, and they beat a shitty team. So overall, pretty good week.
They actually did not make my list.
Damn.
Yeah. At number 5, I have the Los Angeles Clippers. I was debating. I didn't know whether to have them at 4 or 5. But seeing as they really didn't play any good teams this week, they beat the Wolves and the Bulls, and then they lost to the Kings. So they dropped a game to a pretty bad team, and then they only beat worse teams. So it was hard to really keep them anywhere higher than 5 for me. But yeah.
That's fair enough. I mean, yeah. My number 4 is the Philadelphia 76ers. They're the first team in the East. But overall, their record isn't better than any of the top 3 teams in the West. Over the last week, though, they've had a pretty nice stretch. They beat the Nets on Saturday. They beat them by 16. They beat the Kings on Tuesday, but they dropped one to the Blazers again. The Blazers have kind of had their number, it feels like, this year.
Which
especially
is strange, because they don't have any other team's number.
Yeah, they lost to the depleted Trailblazers 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, that's why I got them there. But that's it.
Nice. At number 4, I have the Phoenix Suns. I have them here because they went 3-0 this week. They beat the Celtics and the Bucks and the Cavs. Now, the Cavs aren't great. They're like the 13th seed. But the Celtics and the Bucks are pretty good teams. And the Suns have moved up to the 4 seed in the West. They would be the 3 seed if they were in the East. And since this is week-by-week power rankings, obviously I don't think they're the 4th best team in the league. But this past week they did play like it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. They did not crack my list yet, just because, they're still 15-9, and I still think the Bucks are just a little better at 16-10. But I get it. My number 3 is the Clippers. The Clippers are pretty firmly. I think they've been pretty firmly in that 3-4 slot for me pretty much all year. As you said. They lost to the Kings, but they beat the Timberwolves and the Bulls. So overall, 2-1 against 3 pretty shitty teams. But they're still 19-10 on the season. So I'm sorry, 19-8 on the season. So I'm keeping them up there.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
What's your number 3?
My number 3 is the Philadelphia Swaggity Sixers, as they say.
Yep.
They beat the Nets, which I think is still a very good win. And the Kings, which is less of a good win, honestly. And then they lost to the Blazers, which we already kind of touched on. But yeah, no, again, they've just been consistently the best team in the East, one of the best teams in the league. So, yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. My number 2 is the Lakers. The Lakers are a half game back from the 1st seed in the West. The only reason that they're not 1 right now is because the team in front of them is having a ridiculous stretch of dominance, really, over the last 20 games or so.
Yeah.
But the Lakers are still right there. I mean, the Lakers are incredible. LeBron's been great this year. They had 3 straight overtime games. They won all of them. And even though like Detroit's shitty, the Thunder's shitty, and they beat the Thunder back-to-back games in OT and the Pistons in OT, it is crazy that you can go to 3 straight games in overtime and win all of them.
Yeah.
And then they beat the Grizzlies yesterday, and the Grizzlies are a legit playoff contender as well. So I think that the Lakers are deserving of that second spot. And really, as soon as my first team slips up, the Lakers are probably going to be number 1.
Number 2 for me was also the Lakers. I mean, you kind of touched on it. I took the OT as like a little bit differently than you did, because I was debating between having them as 1 or 2, because like this week they went 4-0. The other team, I'm assuming we both have, went 3-0.
Yeah.
So I was debating between having them first, but like if you go to OT against the Pistons and the Thunder twice, you don't deserve to be number 1.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, that wasn't the deciding factor. I just think it's hard to win, especially when it's 3 games in 5 days. They all go to overtime. I would say that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Even if they're not teams you should be going to overtime against, I still respect the hustle at the very least. So, yeah.
All right. Number 1.
Number 1, you want to say it at the same time?
Are we doing a bit this time? I kind of messed it up last week.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a bit when I was saying the Knicks, but we can go legit.
Oh.
We can go legit.
All right.
3, 2, 1. The Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Jazz are they're an unprecedented, not really, but this is one of the best winning streaks, and it's not even really a streak. It's just they're 17-1, so by definition, it's not really a streak. They're just like 8-1 and then like 9-0 or something. I don't know, but they've been crazy good this year, and the fact that the Lakers, like I looked at the standings today and I was like, wait, the Lakers are only a half game behind them? Because it's just ridiculous that a team can be that good. I think it's because the Jazz started off the season like 4-4 or something, and now they're 21-5, or 3-4, and now they're 21-5, and the Lakers have just like they'll win 5 straight and then they'll drop 1, and then they'll win 5 straight and then they'll drop 1.
Yeah. Well, the thing about the Jazz
it's a little
is
bit
that,
different.
like, in this run that they've been going on, I don't know the exact number, but I'm pretty sure, like, the entire team as a whole is shooting over 40% from 3. Like, everyone's just hitting their shots.
Yeah. Which is why we keep saying this. This is a very much pro Donovan Mitchell podcast, but so in turn, it's a pro Jazz podcast, even though the Jazz fans fucking suck.
Pro Jazz, not pro Jazz fans.
Yeah, pro Jazz. Yeah. But I think we got to recognize that this is not a sustainable level of production, and
hey,
I think it's inevitable.
If they do sustain it, then they deserve to win. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not like they're lucky. It's just like this is not really.
Yeah, it's not.
This is kind of unprecedented.
72 games into playoffs.
Yeah, like it's not like when Clay and Steph where they both shot like 40% that one year, where it's like, oh well, they're like 2 of the greatest shooters of all time. Like they're doing this with like Donovan Mitchell and Jordan Clarkson and Bojan Bogdanovic and Joe Ingles,
And Mike
which
Conley.
like I would say one of those guys is a 3-point specialist. The other 3 are different styles, kind of playmakers more that are also just making their shots right now.
Don't forget about Mike Conley, dude.
Yeah, Mike Conley too, but he shot like 30% from the field last year. And
Yeah.
now he's like shooting 45% from 3. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's hope they can continue it. I just don't see this as a sustainable output.
That's
This
'cause it
seems like a
hasn't
team
happened
that's
before.
gonna. Yeah, this seems like a team that's gonna win like 50 or not 50. I'll say 50. They'll go like, I don't know, 53-19 or something because it's a 72 game season, and they'll lose in like the second round to the Lakers or the Clippers.
Yeah. But all I'm
seems-
saying,
Yeah.
if they keep playing like this, my Donovan Mitchell, Dwayne Wade run is not completely out of the realm of possibility.
No, it's not.
So,
Not at all. I saw a tweet this week, and it was like spot the difference, and it was just the Jazz or something in the standings, and it was a picture of the 2015 Hawks. And it was like, the picture of like Paul Millsap, Jeff Teague, Al Horford, and Kyle Korver standing next to each other.
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny, but like it's not really the same thing at all because first of all, the East was so weak that year. Like that was, I feel like we say it about a lot of teams that get the first seed in the East, but like that was maybe the weakest that the East has been over the last 20 years. Actually, no, it wasn't because the Celtics won like 52 games that one year and got the first seed.
Yeah, that was the Isaiah Thomas year.
Yeah. But it was a weak year for the East. This is not the same thing. The Jazz are doing this in the West, and also that Atlanta Hawks team was a collection of very good players. I would say that Paul Millsap and Al Horford might make the Hall of Fame, but I would say Paul Millsap is a Hall of very good guy. Donovan Mitchell is a legit, I would say, star, maybe superstar, if you want to say that.
If your average NBA fan thinks someone should be in the Hall of Very Good, you're basically a first ballot Hall of Famer for the NBA. So,
yeah. I mean, what? Paul Millsap's made 4 All-Star games, so that's basically
that's enough.
That's
dude.
basically first
that's all
ballot.
you need. 4 All-Star games, then maybe like an all-defensive team, and you're in.
Hell yeah, dude. All right, so this is kind of a late week on news, but I guess we'll just start with last night. Mitchell Robinson fractured his right hand. What the heck?
Yeah. And since it is the Knicks, I wasn't watching the game, but...
Yeah, of course not. I was, like, going to pick up food or something, and I was, like, at a stoplight, and I got a notification on my watch, and I was like, God damn it.
I didn't even hear about it. I didn't know about it until we got on Xbox, and you guys told me about it.
Yeah, it's depressing. I mean... It's the Knicks, so it's not like this is going to be a lost season or anything without Mitchell Robinson. I still think that they can be good. They're the 8th seed right now. They're 12-15.
Yeah.
If you want to know how great the East is this year. They're 12-15. They're 3 games under 500. They're only 6.5 games back from the 1 seed somehow, even though they're 3 games. Oh, my God. The Wizards, who I would say... pretty much in the running for worst team in the league, are 10.5 games back from the 1 seed.
Yeah.
In the East. They need like 1 good winning streak, and they're right in the playoffs.
They're in the playoffs, dude. They're top 5 seed.
They're 4 games back from the 8th seed.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. So, yeah, that's a huge blow for the Knicks, though. I mean, that really sucks. You know what? The NBA is better when the Knicks are good. Even because, like, they're never a threat to win the championship, but it is more fun when you just have a team like that that's competitive. Like, a team from a huge market. It's like when the Cowboys are good. Like, even if you hate the Cowboys, you got to admit that the NFL is more fun when they're good. Here's the
problem. The games might be more fun, but if Knicks fans get a hint of success...
Oh, my God, yeah. It's the worst. It's like the only, like, team like that... It's like the Lakers, but the Lakers are so consistently good that, like, when they are good, it's not like, oh, this is fun. It's like, God fucking damn it, it's happening again. With the Knicks, it's fun because they're never good. Like,
well, that's the
same
thing,
with the Cowboys.
there's, like, a balance, because, like, I mean, I guess this applies to the Cowboys right now, too. When their team sucks, it's like, you kind of feel bad for them a little bit because it's been going on for a while. But, like, you don't want them to succeed because then their fans aren't going to shut up about it, so...
Yeah. The Cowboys made the playoffs, like, once a couple years ago. Like, that season where the Cowboys were, like, 13-3 with Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott when they were both rookies. I am glad that I wasn't really on the internet then because I know that was the most unbearable time. Like, I legitimately liked the Cowboys that year. I was like, this team is fucking awesome. Dak Prescott's a stud. Like, he's a 4th-round draft pick, cool story. But I would bet you if I was on, like, NFL Instagram, I would hate them.
Yeah. Just imagine, I mean, think about how crazy it was at the beginning of this season when Dak Prescott was throwing like 5,000 yards in his first 6 games.
He threw
or
like
whatever.
1,600 yards through 4 games.
Yeah,
and
it
everybody
was like
was
crazy.
he's going to break the record.
Yeah.
And then he broke his ankle.
Get Pettis, please get paid and come to the Colts or, whatever.
Yeah, come to the Colts.
Anyway, that's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah, we're talking about the Knicks, and it is fun. I would like to see the Knicks get swept in the first... I would rather see the Knicks get swept than the Hawks or the Bulls get swept, right?
Well, I would rather see the Bulls get swept, but that's just my fan talking.
Okay, so right now, let's look at the East playoff picture.
Okay.
So I would say there are 4 locks to make the playoffs, and I would say that they're locked into the 1 through 4. The Sixers, the Nets, the Celtics, and the Bucks.
And the
I would
Pacers
say that
can be locks if our players decide to stop being.
Yeah, I would say the Pacers are like the bubble like lock kind of because they seem like they're the 5th seed. They're 1-4 over their last 5.
But they have a bunch of injuries to deal with.
4-6 over the last 10. Yeah, they basically. I mean, even though Karras should be back soon, or not should be back soon, you know what I mean. Karras is going to be back eventually. They kind of traded Victor Oladipo for like nothing.
Yeah.
As of right now, like we don't
honestly.
have anybody to fill in for Victor right now.
Yeah, and TJ
Which,
Warren.
even though I'd
we're
rather
playing
have
with
Karras.
half of a starting lineup right now.
Yeah, TJ should be back soon. I think. I think he really should be back soon. Like I'm thinking he should be back. Like I saw Bjorkgren saying he's pretty close to the green light, so that's good. And then Karras, come back whenever you're ready.
Yeah,
but
don't rush back.
I saw him I think I saw 8 weeks 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we might be getting close to Karras coming back. I wouldn't blame him if he sat out the season though.
No, I wouldn't. Yeah, I mean it's cancer.
Yeah, it's not a fun thing to have.
Not like a trip with your family on the weekend.
Yeah, but regardless, the Pacers' starting lineup is pretty much gutted. I do still think they're better than the Hornets, the Knicks, and the Hawks.
Shocker there.
So I think they're pretty much guaranteed a playoff spot. I think it's pretty safe to say that the Heat are guaranteed a playoff spot, even though they started off slow. They're back to 11-14. They're 9th in the East right now. They are legitimately better than the Knicks and the Hornets.
They
and
have enough
probably
time
better
to
than the
make it
Raptors.
back to the 4, 5, 6 seed area.
Yeah. And then the Raptors are a weird team because they were ass to start out the year, but they're 5-5 over their last 10.
And now there's Kyle Lowry trade rumors going around, dude.
Yeah, and if he gets traded, they're definitely worse. And I would say that I don't know. Would you say that without Kyle Lowry, they're worse than the Hornets and the Knicks? Because the Hornets are another team that's super fun. They're like a half game back from the 5 seed. They're the 6 right now. They're a weird team though.
They are. So that's tough. The thing with the Hornets are nice because you'll just LaMelo's doing his thing, and then randomly you'll get a 30 piece from Gordon Hayward or a 40 piece from Terry Rozier. But with the Raptors, it's either they look like a top 4 seed or they look like they should be bottoming out. They either look really good or really bad. So it's really hard to gauge them because other teams can be volatile, but they're literally on opposite ends of the spectrum on any given night.
Yeah, the Hornets are a team where if you're watching them, you don't look at the score. You kind of you
just watch the players. It's fun
what's
to watch.
LaMelo doing?
Yeah.
What's Terry Rozier doing? What's Gordon Hayward doing? You're not what's the score right now? Because if they win, it's cool. You're okay, they won. But if they lose, it's okay, well, it's the Hornets. Of course they lost.
Yeah, you're not expecting.
I'm not expecting any big shit from the Hornets this year.
Yeah.
Just LaMelo is gonna be fun, and maybe they crack the playoffs as the 8th seed. That would be cool.
Right.
But it's looking like they're better than the Raptors, and I think they're better than the Knicks. Not better than the Heat, though. So I could see a legitimate 7 seed from the Hornets, and then I'll say 8 seed from the Knicks. Maybe the Hawks. I don't know. Not
The Hawks.
Wizards.
The Hawks are they'll either go 3-1 or 1-3 on any given week.
They're 3-7 over their last 10 after starting out the year 7-7. They've just 8-7. They've completely fallen off the face of the earth.
Well, the problem with the East is even though that happened, they just got to win 2 games and they're back in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of the Hawks, that's a pretty good segue. John Collins. The Hawks are open to trade discussions for John Collins. What do you think about that?
Well, that should have been announced last year when he asked for a max contract. But
yeah, when he asked for $100 million, they should have just told him to go fuck himself. And immediately put him on a plane to I don't know, wherever they want to trade him. Because there's no...
Yeah, not only did that happen and then they didn't do anything, he said that again this year and then proceeded to assist in the shattering of the Hawks star players' confidence for about 2 weeks. And now
Trey's got it back, though.
Yeah, now he's
Trey's all
back.
good.
But John Collins should have been out of there much sooner than now. Not that he's not a bad player by any means, but he just doesn't
John Collins
belong
is
in
great.
that locker room.
John Collins, okay, hold on. Admittedly, I haven't watched a ton of the Hawks this year, so I don't have a great gauge on John Collins as a player, but just from his statistics, like, he's averaging 18 and 8 right now. Like, that is good.
No, he's a good player for sure, but
yeah. He's 23.
The problem is, here's what happens, though, is the Hawks were like the 6th seed for a while, right? And then he was like, the problem is whenever they give John Collins more touches, they also lose more games.
Yes.
So it's like he's not bad, but him and Trae Young being the two ball-dominant players isn't going to lead to winning any games. And it doesn't help that DeAndre Hunter's out. He has like a torn meniscus or something. And I think Okongwu is hurt, maybe, or he's just not playing very much. And Gallo just came back from an injury, so like this team has some things to work out. But I don't know. I mean, I think maybe not this year, but if everyone can get healthy, and they can either move John Collins or figure out a way to like work him better in the offense so that it's not detrimental to the team, but he can still, get touches maybe. But I don't think Lloyd Pierce is the one that's going to do that.
I don't know. I think it's pretty much like through no fault of anybody besides John Collins, because he's the only one really saying dumb shit. I think John Collins' tenure as an Atlanta Hawk is probably close to over.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, he's on the trade block, so obviously, but
Ooh, I googled John Collins and I found a cool trade scenario. Let me just hold on, you vamp for a second. I just want to get the whole trade ironed out.
All right, you do that. I guess I'll vamp about the Hawks for a little bit. They're 11-14. Oh, the Bulls are the 11th seed right now. Hold on. While you do that, I'm going to talk about the Bulls for a second. Billy, what the fuck is going on here, man? They were 10-15. Dude, we got to be better than that. We had the one game where Zach LaVine and Kobe White combined for like 80 points. But like now Lowry's hurt and Wendell's hurt. And we're playing like Daniel Gafford's getting starting minutes. Thad Young's getting starting minutes. The team has not been great, but we could still make the play-in tournament, potentially.
Okay, here's the whole trade scenario. So it's a proposed deal between the Kings, the Hawks, and the Celtics. Celtics get John Collins, Harrison Barnes, and Rajon Rondo and Solomon Hill. The Hawks get Buddy Hield, Romeo Langford, Grant Williams, 2 first-round picks, and 2 second-round picks. And the Kings would get Cam Reddish, Aaron Nesmith, Kevin Huerter, Chris Dunn, and a future first-rounder.
If I'm the Hawks, I'd turn that one down.
Yeah,
you don't need Buddy Hield, and you don't want to get rid of Cam Reddish.
You're basically giving up Cam Reddish and John Collins, and you're getting back 2 first-round picks for them, which is kind of ridiculous.
Who are the picks from? Because if they're from the Celtics, they're meaningless.
I think it would probably be 1 from the Celtics and 1 from the Kings.
All right, so you're getting a 1.5 first-round picks back.
Yeah,
and at the expense of trading you're trading John Collins anyway. But at the expense of trading Cam Reddish, who I still think can be really good in the NBA. And on top of that, you're getting Buddy Hield, he's bad for the locker room. They already have enough shooting, and he doesn't play defense like Cam Reddish does. So I don't see a reason. I guess the firsts are okay, but you already have a young core. Why would you set that back by trading your young pieces for more first-round picks? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's definitely a lateral move. I don't really understand it all the way.
Because if you can just trade John Collins to the Celtics, don't make this a 3-team trade. Just get back the pieces from the Celtics that you were getting and like maybe an additional pick. there's no need to trade away Cam Reddish and bring the Kings into this.
Yeah, if they wanted to do a trade for, I think they included the Kings because of Buddy Hield, because Buddy Hield also kind of wants out, or maybe wants out, or I don't know. But if they really wanted to do that, they could probably make that trade work with the Celtics where they give up John Collins. I would say if you gave up John Collins and you got back like Grant Williams, Aaron Nesmith, and a first rounder, I think that's a decent haul. Like, I wouldn't hate that.
Yeah.
Maybe like you try to get a Marcus Smart. Maybe you get like a Marcus Smart, a Nesmith, and a first rounder. But I don't know. Like, I think that's a decent trade for a guy like John Collins.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to the point with John Collins where teams know you don't want him anymore, so you're not going to get back 2 or 3 first-round picks and, whatever. But if you can get...
It's like a...
At this point, like, trading John Collins is just so that he doesn't stunt the growth of your young players and eat up salary. Like, he's a good player, but you don't want those negative effects that come with him right now. So...
Yeah. And I think he's 23. Like, he's got that all-star potential that I think that the...
Oh, for sure.
I think the Celtics need another... I think they need not another guy with all-star potential, but they need a big man.
John Collins doesn't have to come in and be like, the second or third option. He just has to be a big presence that can, he can score in the post. He's a pretty versatile scorer. He can get rebounds. He's just an all-around good big man. They don't need him to come in and put up like 20 and 10.
If he gets even if his production goes down, like his scoring production goes down, his rebounding production is going to go up because who's going to fight him for rebound? Like, he's in the paint, the same paint as Clint Capella, who's not arguably because Drummond is far and away, but I would say arguably the second best rebounder in the league. John Collins is not fighting for rebounds with anybody on the Celtics. He is a better rebounder than Tristan Thompson and Daniel Tice. Like, no fucking question. Robert Williams, like... He is that guy. John Collins is going in. He's probably scoring I would say he's probably getting about 15 points, but I would say his rebounding production skyrockets.
He could be a 15 and 12 guy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what the Celtics need right now.
Yeah. Especially if you're a team like the Celtics who are willing to go into their own pockets, maybe you don't give him that $100 million, but he could still get a payday potentially.
Yeah. Yeah, the Celtics have proved time and time again that they are willing to pay the luxury tax if they need to.
Do you think, this is a thing that I've been thinking about, do you think there's a potential trade, maybe not with the Hawks because they don't really need that, but do you think there's a trade that goes with Kemba Walker because he has not been great and there have been like talks about them potentially moving him?
I would trade Kemba Walker. I mean, if I'm the Celtics, I'm trading Kemba Walker. The problem is, though... Because, like, if you want a guy like John Collins, you're not going to include Kemba Walker in that deal. Because the Hawks already have a point guard. Kemba Walker would go in there. Like, he would probably come off the bench for Trae Young. Unless they wanted to start Trae at shooting guard.
Which is a terrible idea.
Stunt Trae. Like, I don't think they wanted... I don't think the Hawks want to do that. And I don't think Kemba wants to do that, quite frankly.
No.
I don't think he wants to share a backcourt with a ball-dominant guard like Trae Young.
A ball-dominant, high-shot volume... point guard.
Yeah.
That it's essentially just does the same thing as him with more threes.
Yeah. I don't know, but I also don't know what Kemba Walker's value is, because who's a team that like could really use a point guard?
The thing with Kemba is it's a risk because he's been hurt, and when he does play, he either drops 20 or like 4,
Yeah, I don't know what a team is that like really needs a point guard. Really needs a point guard that's kind of overpaid. Like, let's be honest. He's making, like, $33 million this year.
Yeah.
And for the next 2 years after this year. Who's a little overpaid. And, he's 6'1", so he's only going to get worse. Like, he's not going to... I would say that Kemba is a guy that, like, his passing can age well, but I don't think his, like, athletic skill set is going to age very well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what a team that really wants that is that's so desperate for a point guard that they would do that.
The Knicks?
Like maybe the Clippers? The Knicks.
Well, actually, we'll talk about the Knicks in a second because I had another thing to bring up about them. But
the Knicks have the cap for it. I mean, that's not the worst idea.
There's not many other teams. Like, The problem with the Clippers is they could do that, but there's it seems pretty lateral. You're not really improving your team a lot by bringing in Kemba Walker.
Like, you would probably have to give up, like, I would say Ivica Zubats for sure. Probably Reggie Jackson.
Yeah,
like
they already have
and
solid
Luke Kennard
team.
or something.
Yeah,
they're already good enough without him.
Exactly. I don't know. Maybe a team like the Pelicans. Maybe, I don't know.
But what assets would the Pelicans use? Like they trade like Lonzo and Josh Hart or Steven Adams and Lonzo and Josh Hart?
Ooh, we'll bring this up in a little bit later because now I just got a pretty good idea. So we'll come back to that. But anyway, back to the Hawks and the not Dennis Smith Jr. John Collins. Yeah. I don't know. There's definitely a lot of possibilities for him to get moved, though.
Yeah, I would say there are definitely teams that could use him, and I would say that it would be better for him, for his career, and really his self-esteem, probably, to get out of Atlanta.
Yeah.
Just because, like, nobody's going to pick him over Trae Young.
Right,
that's obvious.
Exactly, yeah. That team is now Trae Young's team.
Yeah.
All right. Next up. Actually, we can talk about this now. I know we talked about this before the episode started. There's been a lot of buzz around the NBA media community about if Zion is becoming underrated because he's averaging like 24 and 8 on pretty effective shooting, and nobody's talking about him. So,
I will say this: Zion Williamson is absolutely an all-star this year. He probably won't make it because the Pelicans suck, but he is definitely in that conversation. He's already, I would say, a top 10 power forward, or even just like, I don't even know what his position is because he's like a weird forward. I would say he's definitely like a top 15 forward just in general. He's ridiculously efficient. He was like 12 of 12 in the first half. And even if it's on like just a bunch of dunks and layups and shit, that is almost impossible to do. Like, that is so hard to do. You're going to miss one, and he just doesn't. Right now, he's probably the best player on that team. Like, Brandon Ingram has also been good. It's hard to tell, but Zion is ridiculous.
Yeah. And
he is the future.
And the reason Wait, what?
Yeah, you keep going.
I was saying the reason I brought this up is because like they're bad, sure, but last year Zion played like 20 games, and every single game there was like 5 to 10 Zion posts. And this season I feel like I've seen a total of like 4 or 5.
Well, he had a really good night last. He had I saw like 5 posts last night about his
I didn't see a single
34
post.
points.
I saw
16 rebounds.
I saw like the thing that League Alerts does where they just post like the top stat lines from each game. But other than that, I didn't see like any highlights or any comments about Zion or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that he's become kind of underrated. He's also in New Orleans. If he was doing this in New York or something, he's definitely getting more attention.
But LaMelo Ball's doing it in Charlotte.
Davis was in New Orleans.
Fucking Charlotte.
Yeah, I know, but it's also the rookie. He's a ball brother. Like, Lonzo Ball was average his rookie year, and he was getting a post every night.
Yeah.
If he fucking farted at half court, he would get a post.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, I mean, but Zion is. He's the most hyped rookie since LeBron. He had kind of not disappointing because he played poorly, just disappointing because he didn't play. But yeah, this year 34 points or 24 points a game, 7 rebounds a game, 3 steals 34. A game. That would be crazy. And then a steal and half a block to go along with it on 60% from the field, 30% from 3. Those are very efficient numbers.
The 30%'s not amazing, but the 60 is insane.
That's not amazing, but he's a forward. He's a forward, and this is essentially his rookie year.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, I don't know. 30% is pretty efficient for a guy who doesn't really take a ton of threes anyway.
Yeah. But the reason I brought this up was, the Pelicans, I don't know if it's Van Gundy or the front office or whatever, but this team was constructed horribly because it's like the scheme doesn't like. First of all, Van Gundy is not a very good coach, right? So get that out of there right now. He was a solid coach like 10, 15 years ago, but
he was.
In modern basketball, he doesn't really have a place anymore, unless he adapts, obviously, which it doesn't look like he has. But that's besides the point. The Pelicans have a starting backcourt of Alonzo Ball and Eric Bledsoe, which already raises some questions, right? Then on top of that, you've essentially turned Zion into a post center, and he's playing next to Steven Adams. So that's already
love the spacing.
That's a second red flag there. And then your only real perimeter threat at this point is Brandon Ingram, who has to essentially do everything on the perimeter. So it just that's why I had the idea of because you brought up that a Kemba trade could potentially include someone like Lonzo Ball and Steven Adams or something like that. And if they were able to do that, that would clear up the post for Zion, because Steven Adams wouldn't be there, and he could play like a small ball 5 or something like that. And then you could have Kemba out on the perimeter, which could then potentially space the floor a little better.
Yeah, you're definitely spot on with that analysis. I do think I would say it's a combination. I would say that the roster is poorly constructed, and I would say that Van Gundy's rotations are hot shit as well. So really, it's just a perfect cocktail of garbage.
What a beautiful analogy.
Yeah, so I watching the Pelicans, I watched the Pelicans Pacers game. I've watched the Pelicans are one of my more watched teams this year, because I'll just usually I watch basketball on Xbox late at night, and which means that I'm watching a lot of West Coast games.
Yeah.
And the Pelicans, I watch a decent amount of Pelicans games, and they are fun. But you can see, all of the issues with spacing are very evident. Even if Lonzo's been a little bit better at shooting this year.
Yeah, he's been an okay shooter, but it's not enough.
Yeah. Yeah, he needs to be, a consistent, 35% three-point shooter.
And it's worrying.
And he's just never, ever going to be that.
What's really worrying is that they have J.J. Redick, and they're playing him, 20 minutes a game, and he's shooting terribly because he can't get into a rhythm because he doesn't play enough minutes.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, J.J. Redick should be starting. There is no...
Yeah.
Eric Bledsoe, I would say Eric Bledsoe is probably better as a sixth man at this point in his career anyway. Or even Lonzo Ball is better as a sixth man. One of those guys would be a better sixth man than they are a starter. And J.J. Redick should be starting. He doesn't need to ball handle. That's never been his thing.
He doesn't even,
whichever one of
I wouldn't
Lonzo
even
or
say...
Eric Bledsoe can handle the ball.
I wouldn't even say he has to do what he's been doing the past, his entire career, where he just runs around the court on screens. He doesn't even have to do that a bunch anymore. You just have to have someone out there that can be on the perimeter as a shooting threat to ease off of Brandon Ingram a little bit.
Okay, let me just, before I say anything that I'm going to regret, I got to look at some statistics.
Yeah, while you do that, another thing, Stan, get Zion out on the perimeter so he can run in and do some cool dunks. It's not cool when he's just sitting in the post putting up layups on 3 people, because 1, it's not leading to game wins, and 2, it's not giving us any cool Zion highlights, and 3, it's not putting him back in shape.
Actually, Zion is in shape.
I'm not saying he's out of shape. What I'm saying is, if he just sits in the post all game, he's going to just continue to bulk up muscle, and he's not ever going to use his legs like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You saw what he did in high school and college. He has the leaping ability. He has the athleticism. He can do shit.
The reason he got drafted.
Yeah, he can do shit. Let him do shit.
Yeah. I will say, the Pelicans have a couple three-point shooters. Josh Hart is a 35% three-point shooter on the year. He's getting 28 minutes a game. He's getting more minutes than J.J. Redick, who's one of the 10 best shooters of all time, probably. That's a little ridiculous, but he should be getting minutes. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he's getting 15 minutes a game. He's shooting 31% from, I'm sorry. Oh, no, he's been bad. He's shooting 26% from 3. Never mind about him. But my point stands about Josh Hart. Josh Hart is a good three-point shooter, and he just kind of just hangs out. He's taken 1 of 5, 2 of 5, 3 of 9, 0 of 5, 1 of 2, 2 of 3, 1 of 5, 1 of 2, 3 of 5, 1 of 4. So he's taking at most like 5 3-pointers a game. He has 1 with 9, but most other games he's taken like 5 at most.
Yeah. And in defense of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, when you're playing 15 minutes a game, you're not going to be efficient with it because you're not getting enough time to get significant shots up.
Yeah.
If you shoot 1 of 3, that's 33%.
Yeah. That's fair. That's probably 28% on like 20 attempts on the season.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not enough. If he has a game where he just shoots 0 of 2, that plummets his percentage because he's only playing 15 minutes.
Yeah. So the Pelicans need some shooters, or they need to use the fucking shooters they have. Use JJ Redick. Like, use Josh Hart. Play Josh Hart on the perimeter a little bit more. He is a good shooter. He's 6'5". He's big for a shooter.
He had that game.
He's big.
This past week where he had like 20 and 17.
Yeah, he was great. And that was the only time he got 40 minutes that game. I believe that is the only time he's gotten 40 minutes all season. Yeah, that's by far the most
40 minutes
he's
is a
gotten all
lot,
year.
so I can't expect him to get 40 consistently.
No, it is, but it is, but like the most behind that is 32, and then it's like 30, and then the rest of the games are like 27, 28, 24, 22, 19,
right.
25, 29. Like, it's shit like that where you're like, okay, well, he's proven that he can play more than 30 minutes a game, and he's better when he's taking more shots and playing more minutes. So, like, why aren't you giving him the green light? The only other time he's taken more than 10 shots in this, like, little 10-game sample size I'm using, or 13 or whatever, he was 6 of 13. Like, he had 15 points. He was 8 of 16. He had 20 points in that game against the Rockets. Like, he is better when he's taking more shots. Against the Mavericks last night, he was 2 of 8 with 6 points. Like, Josh Hart's a guy that needs to get into a rhythm a little bit. Like, he's a guy that, like, when he got traded, I was like, that's an underrated part of that. That's an underrated part of that package.
Yeah, he's
'cause
very
he was good
solid
for the Lakers. Yeah,
and
he's solid.
Here's the thing: even if he doesn't get into a rhythm, like in that 2 of 8 game, let's say he just couldn't, like, get it to go. Right? He's 3 of 12. That's fine because he's the only one taking that many threes. He's still a shooting threat. You can't leave him open.
Yeah, you're never gonna. And that's the other thing is, like, teams don't look at shooting percentages, they look at tape. And if they see a guy consistently making threes, even if he has a couple bad games, like, they're not going to be like, oh, just don't guard him, because he's going to make those. Nobody's like, oh, Josh Hart shot 1 of 5 last game. Yeah, you can go ahead. You don't have to guard him. Like, no, fucking guard him.
Yeah, because if you don't, he's going to be... this is going to be the game where he has, like, 40 points.
Yeah, exactly. So they need to get him more involved. I would say that my proposed Kemba trade is actually, like, not bad. Like, Steven Adams and Lonzo Ball, they would help. Like, the Celtics need a guy like Steven Adams. I don't know if they really need Alonzo Ball. That might be a little weird, but they can make it work. Probably, like, Brad Stevens is a good enough coach where he could probably make it work.
And at this point, Kemba's trade value isn't high enough to where they can, like, ask for, like, multiple picks or whatever. You know what I mean? Like.
And then, you know, maybe to sweeten the deal a little bit, because Kemba does still have some value outside of, like, a higher end center.
No, he's still good.
Lonzo
it's just
Ball.
that he hasn't played much this
Throwing
season.
one of those Bucks picks.
Yeah.
Throwing a Bucks pick.
Yeah, you got, like,
boom.
You have like 50 picks now from the Lakers and Bucks. Throw some of them into a trade. Make your team better.
Yeah. Even if it needs to be 2 picks, a Lakers pick and a Bucks pick, like, those aren't going to be worth shit.
Exactly.
So just do it. All right. What else do we got? You wanted to talk about the Knicks?
Oh, yeah. The Dennis Smith Jr. for Derrick Rose trade. And I like this for, honestly, when I first saw it, I was like, this doesn't make much sense for either team. But the more I look at it, it makes a little bit of sense for both teams. Because with the Knicks, I feel like they're not contending for a championship, but they are contending for a playoff spot. So a guy like Derrick Rose definitely does help out with that.
Yeah, I mean, when you're the Knicks, or when you're the Kings, or when you're the Hawks, and you've been shitty or the Mavericks, and you've been shitty for a consistent amount of time, your goal isn't to build a contender. If you've got a couple pieces, your goal is to make the playoffs. And I would say that Derrick Rose gives the Knicks a much better shot at making the playoffs than Dennis Smith Jr. does, because Dennis Smith Jr. is in the G League right now.
Well, not anymore. I think he's on the Pistons roster now, isn't he?
Well, let's look, because I don't know if he's gotten any playing time. But yeah, I think he is on the active roster. Yeah, he's played.
Yeah.
He's got 13 minutes against the Celtics, 16 minutes against the Pacers. So he's getting a little bit of playing time.
Yeah. And what I will say about this Pistons team is, like, they suck. But they do have that, like, I don't want to call it an underdog factor because that implies that they're going to, like, win some games. But they have, like, they're kind of like the Rockets in the sense of they have, like, players that were discarded by other teams, essentially.
Yeah,
like,
they've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
They're not fun because fun teams win games, but, like, they will go out like they've got like 6 wins against. I think 5 of their 6 wins are against legitimate contenders.
Yeah, and like they have. I mean, if they kept Christian Wood, it would have made for a better story, I guess. But they have Josh Jackson, who, he had his troubles, and now he's actually playing pretty solid. Dennis Smith Jr.'s got to redeem himself. Like, Jeremy Grant. People thought like, oh, that's a massive overpay, and he's been playing pretty well.
And, like, I don't know, we've kind of made fun of, not Dennis Smith Jr. in the past, but, like, he did get kind of overrated after that draft because people were like, look at how athletic he is. He's Derrick Rose. But I do still think he can be a productive NBA player.
No, he'll be solid for
in
sure.
the right spot.
And say what you want about, whatever you want, but Dwayne Casey is still a solid enough coach. Is he their coach still?
Yeah, I mean, what do you want him to do with this roster? Yeah, he's the coach still.
Yeah.
What do you want him to do with Jeremy Grant, Mason Plumlee, Blake Griffin, who's, a shell of his former self. Yeah. I mean, as much as I like Blake Griffin, it's time to admit that he is. I think he still can be good. I think part of this is just adjusting to playing again because he didn't play all of last year. I think he can still maybe get like 16 points a game, but like that's very high end of what his production can still be.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have it anymore. At least the athleticism. Like sometimes we'll get one and we'll be like vintage Blake, and then the next play he'll like dribble out of bounds off his foot.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh well.
But like honestly, I didn't hate this trade for either team really. The more I looked at it, I guess.
No, I mean I was like, on Sunday, and nothing else happened Sunday. Like, this was definitely the most interesting thing to happen all day. Really, no other sports news happened at all. If I can remember.
No. Sunday was a very boring day for the sports world. Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Nothing else of significance happened.
Nothing.
But I was like, this seems like a lateral move. Like, okay, you get Dennis Smith Jr., who right now is in the G League. Like, I guess. He's a prospect. He's only 23 still. But and like a second round pick from the Knicks, so like maybe it'll be like the 40th overall pick or whatever. And then the Knicks get Derrick Rose, who's like, it's Derrick Rose. Like at this point in Derrick Rose's career, we know what he is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What else?
What
else?
So, another thing we have to talk about is the fact that Mr. Stephen Curry has been balling out of his goddamn mind.
Good Lord.
Oh man.
Yeah. Do you remember? I saw a tweet 2 weeks ago. I think it was Spawn Hour. And he was like, "Do you remember when the Warriors started off 0-2 and people were questioning Steph Curry's whole legacy?"
I don't think. Yeah.
Like, do you remember that? That was fucking crazy.
What I will say is we weren't questioning his legacy, but we were questioning if the Warriors would be okay this season.
Yeah, I mean, well, no, people were like, "Oh, Steph Curry can't lead a team. He sucks. He needs to have Kevin Durant." Yes.
Really?
Dude, do you not remember we had a conversation about this on the podcast that Steph Curry is the greatest complimentary superstar of all time, but he's not a guy that's going to he's not going to LeBron or KD hard carry a team to the finals. That's just not how he plays.
Oh no.
Did
we say that?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you not remember this at all?
I'm sorry, Steph.
Yeah, and obviously it was very wrong. I mean, I guess the point still stands that he's not going to make a shitty team the 1 seed, but they're going to get to the fucking playoffs. Like, they're at the very least, they're going to be in the play-in tournament.
Yeah.
But regardless, yeah, do you remember that conversation now that we had?
Not really, but I'll take your word for it. I mean,
Do you really?
yeah, it's been like a,
Yeah,
it's
it
been
was
like a
like-
month and a half.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like this was a pretty big conversation. Yeah, they're the 8th seed right now. They're a half came back from,
I
or
remember,
they're a game back from being the 6th.
I remember us saying like the Warriors are gonna miss the playoffs this season after the first few games. I don't remember us saying all the other stuff. I don't know, but yeah, no.
I mean, it wasn't questioning. We weren't questioning Curry's legacy. Other people were. We were just saying that, like, yeah, Steph Curry is not a guy that's built to be like. He's still a top 5 player, but he's not a guy that's like gonna go out and hard carry a team every night. He's not built to do that, and clearly we were wrong.
Yeah. He's been insane. He had like a 40-point game the other day, and it was mostly 3-pointers.
Yeah, he was like, I think he was like he had 12 or something.
Yeah, and then I remember there was like a post on Instagram, and it was like the most games of like this and this many 3-pointers. So it was like the most like 8 3-pointers made games, the most 9 3-pointers made games, and like it went all the way down to like 13, and Steph Curry was the most on every single game, and it was insane.
Yeah. Yeah, he shot 10 of 19 versus the Magic.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous. Who does that?
Yeah, no, it was.
Yeah, he had 30
feel-
of his 40 points on 3-pointers.
I feel bad for the Magic because I had that game playing, but I wasn't really like paying super close attention to it until I heard the announcers going like crazy. Because I was doing homework, I think, at the time, and but like I watched the highlight reel of it, and the Magic were playing perfect defense. They just couldn't do anything.
Yeah. The Magic are the team that, like, no matter what, they just trip over themselves and get records set on.
But it wasn't even their fault. They did everything right.
Yeah.
It's just that you couldn't, you're not
Whenever
stopping
the Magic are playing, whenever I watch a Magic game, which is very rarely because they're bad this year, it feels like a guy's, like, dropping 40 on them.
Yeah.
And they just can't do anything about it.
I remember there was the graphic that was like, it was after Zach LaVine had his like 50-point night or whatever, and it was like most 40-point game. Zach LaVine has the second most 40-point games in Bulls history.
Oh, yeah, and he has,
it was
like, 4,
he has
and Michael
4,
Jordan has 75.
And number 1 was Michael Jordan with like 70.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
And everybody, like, retweeted it, and they were like, all right, that's cool, Zach LaVine, but Michael Jordan has how many?
Yeah, exactly. The more worrying thing I feel like is that second place is 4. Like in the entire history of the
like,
Bulls.
all the other Bulls legends aren't really scorers. Like, Derrick Rose didn't have enough time to do that, and, like,
No, but you've been around.
Scottie
for,
Pippen was playing at the same time as Michael Jordan, so obviously he wasn't going to do
No,
it.
but they've been around for since the the 50s or the 60s, something around there. You're telling me you didn't have a single
Yeah.
player with more than 4 40-point games, or even 4 40-point games?
Yeah.
Like, I think even though he was playing next to Michael Jordan, I think even Scottie could have gotten 40, 4 times.
Yeah, that's true. You're telling me that Eddie Curry didn't have at least 5 45-point or more games? You're telling me that? Come on now.
You're telling me that Kirk Heinrich wasn't dropping 40 on the reg, dude?
Come on, bro. No fucking way.
No, but that graphic was insane.
Yeah. All right, we got what else we got?
I think that's about it, honestly. I mean, we've covered injuries. We've covered all the storylines we want to talk about. The power rankings are done. I think it's just if there's anything else you wanted to add.
That's all I got.
All right.
I mean, it was a good week in the NBA. I mean, besides Mitchell Robinson, no, like, horrible injuries.
And
or
Lowry
anything.
got hurt,
He's only going to
dude.
be out like 4 to 6 weeks.
Lowry's out.
Oh,
like,
did he?
Yeah, he's out. He hurt his shoulder. He's out for like 2 to 4 weeks.
Damn it.
I know, dude. He's been solid though. He's averaging like 18 and 8.
Eh?
But oh well. I think that's all we got. So yeah, if you enjoyed, like and subscribe. Check out our personal channels in the description, our socials. The Twitter's in the description as well. Podcast email, Aiden's football article are all in there.
Yes, sir.
Yep. And I think that's all we got. So we'll see you in the next one.
All right. Yep. Bye.